It was the kind of news that makes you want to throw your laptop out the window. My boss had just informed me that I would be working side by side with Ryan Carter. Yes, that Ryan, my cousin's golden boy best friend. The same Ryan who had practically grown up in my living room, who my family adored, and who I'd spent years trying to ignore because every time he smiled, it felt like my ribs were cracking open. Now we were supposed to sit across from each other every day, share ideas, late nights, coffee breaks, pretend like nothing was simmering under the surface. Pretend like the air didn't tighten whenever he looked at me too long. I didn't sign up for this kind of torture. Ryan walked into the office like he owned the damn place, all confidence and easy charm. He spotted me, his lips curling into that familiar grin that always seemed too casual, too dangerous. "Guess we're stuck together," he said, dropping his bag on the desk right next to mine, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Stuck. Yeah, that was one word for it. Another word might have been doomed. The project was a high-stakes onion expansion plan for the company into 3 new states. If we screwed it up, neither of us would recover from the hit to our careers. But my biggest problem wasn't the workload. It was the fact that every time Ryan leaned close to show me a graph on his screen, I caught the scent of his cologne, and my brain short-circuited. I tried to play it cool. I kept my answers clipped, my tone professional, my focus nailed to the spreadsheets. But Ryan wasn't buying it. He never did. "You've gotten better at this," he said one evening, tapping the side of my laptop screen. "Back in college, you'd lose patience after 3 lines of data." I stiffened. Of course he'd remember that. He remembered everything. "People change," I muttered. "Not that much," he teased, his eyes flicking up to meet mine. "You're still you." The way he said it made something tighten in my chest. Still me. Still the awkward kid who had to sit there and smile while his cousin and Ryan laughed about girls they liked, football games, weekend trips. Still the one who secretly watched Ryan with a kind of hunger that terrified me. The difference now was that Ryan wasn't just my cousin's best friend. He was my coworker, my partner. And if I wasn't careful, he'd see through the cracks in my carefully built armor. The first real crack appeared on a rainy Thursday night. The office was nearly empty, thunder rumbling outside while the fluorescent lights hummed above us. I was rubbing my temples, exhausted, when Ryan slid a cup of coffee across the desk. "You're going to burn out if you keep this up," he said softly. I looked up, ready to make a sarcastic remark, but stopped when I saw the expression on his face. Concern. Genuine, unguarded concern. "I'm fine," I said, though my voice betrayed the lie. He didn't argue. He just sat there, close enough that our shoulders almost touched, sipping his own coffee. The silence stretched, heavy with everything unsaid. My pulse quickened. "Why are you really here, Ryan?" I asked before I could stop myself. "I mean, you had a dozen projects you could have been on. Why this one? Why with me?" His gaze lingered on mine, steady and unreadable. Then, quietly, "Because I wanted to." My breath caught. Before I could respond, the door creaked open and a janitor walked by, humming under his breath, breaking the spell. I swallowed hard, turning back to my laptop, my heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest. The days blurred after that. We worked, argued, laughed, stayed too late. The more time we spent together, the harder it became to keep the wall up. And sometimes Ryan would say things that sounded like they meant more than they should. Like when I spilled coffee on myself, and he chuckled before handing me a napkin, saying, "You always rush. You don't have to rush with me." Or when he casually mentioned, "You know, your cousin always thought you were the smartest of us." I agreed. Still do. Every word felt like it chipped away at my defenses. Then came the night that changed everything. We had just finished a marathon work session, the city outside glittering with midnight lights. I leaned back, groaning, while Ryan stretched, his shirt riding up just enough to expose a sliver of skin. I looked away too fast, heat rushing to my face. "Hey," he said suddenly, his tone different, softer. "Do you ever get tired of pretending?" My heart stumbled. Pretending what? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned closer, close enough that I could feel his breath against my cheek. That you don't see me the way I see you. The world tilted. For a second, I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. His eyes burned into mine, and I knew that he had seen through me all along. And the worst part? I wanted it. God help me, I wanted him. The moment Ryan's words left his lips, that you don't see me the way I see you, the world stopped. My pulse thundered so loud I was certain he could hear it. I should have pulled away, laughed it off, built a wall of sarcasm like I always did. Instead, I froze, caught in the gravity of his gaze. I wanted to ask what he meant, to make him spell it out, but I didn't need to. The truth was right there, burning in the space between us. Then, just like that, he leaned back. The spell broke. His expression shuddered, as though he'd said too much. "We should probably get some sleep," he muttered, gathering his things. And before I could stop him, he was gone. The following days were torture. Ryan acted normal, as if nothing had happened, while I stumbled through the work like a man trying to ignore a fire in his own chest. He teased, he laughed. He brushed my shoulder as he leaned past me, the little things that had always driven me insane, but now they carried the weight of that one moment. And the worst part? He was careful. Too careful. It was as though he'd opened a door just wide enough for me to glimpse the truth, then slammed it shut before I could walk through. The project deadline loomed, and with it, the stress. We had to present our progress to the boardroom full of executives who wouldn't tolerate mistakes. I buried myself in data, research, late nights fueled by bad coffee and worse anxiety. But Ryan, he carried us through. Watching him in meetings was infuriating and mesmerizing at once. He had this effortless charm, the kind that made people lean in, nod along, trust him. And when he turned that same energy toward me, backing up my points, filling in the gaps when I faltered, I felt something shift inside me. It was partnership. Real, undeniable partnership. And it scared the hell out of me. One evening, after a brutal 12-hour day, I found him sitting alone in the conference room, his head in his hands. The sight shocked me. Ryan was always the strong one, the steady one. "Hey," I said softly, stepping inside. "You okay?" He looked up, and for once the mask was gone. His eyes were tired, vulnerable. "I'm fine," he lied, the same way I always did. "No, you're not." He gave a hollow laugh. "Guess I'm not as good at hiding it as you are." The words hit harder than I expected. I sat across from him, waiting. He didn't speak right away, but eventually he sighed. "You know what's funny? Your cousin still calls me his best friend. But sometimes I feel like he doesn't even see me anymore." Not really. There was pain in his voice, the kind that comes from being loved for the version of yourself people want to believe in, not the real thing. "Ryan," I started, unsure what to say. But then he looked at me, and the air shifted again. "But you see me, don't you?" Couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. I just nodded, and that was all it took. He leaned across the table, slow, hesitant, giving me every chance to pull away. But I couldn't. His lips brushed mine light, fleeting, like a secret we weren't supposed to share. The world tilted, and for the first time in years, I let myself fall. It didn't stop there. Couldn't. That kiss cracked something open, and no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't put it back. We stole moments in empty hallways, shared glances that lasted too long, touches that lingered past the point of innocence. But reality had a way of reminding us it was waiting. One night, after a long shift, I found myself back at Ryan's apartment. We didn't plan it, it just happened. We were supposed to go over numbers, but instead we ended up sitting on his couch, a movie playing in the background neither of us paid attention to. The rain pattered against the window. His arm brushed mine. And before I knew it, his hand was cupping my jaw, his mouth on mine, desperate and certain. I didn't resist. Every wall I'd built crumbled as he pulled me closer, as his fingers tangled in my hair, as the heat between us burned away every doubt. It was reckless, dangerous, inevitable, and it was real. When we finally pulled apart, breathless, his forehead rested against mine. "You know this can't stay a secret forever," he whispered. "I know." But in that moment I didn't care. Of course, secrets don't stay hidden for long. It started with little things, someone noticing how often we stayed late together, how we laughed at inside jokes no one else understood. Then came the whispers. Office gossip spreads faster than wildfire, and soon, the looks followed us everywhere. But the real blow came from family. My cousin Ryan's best friend since childhood called me one night, his voice cold. "Is there something you need to tell me?" My throat went dry. "You and Ryan," he said flatly. "Don't bother denying it. I'm not an idiot." Silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Finally, I managed, "It's not what you think." "Bullshit." His voice cracked, sharp with betrayal. "You know how much he means to me, and you went behind my back? Both of you." I tried to explain, but he hung up before I could. I stared at the phone, numb. And that's when it his wasn't just about Ryan and me anymore. It was about loyalty, friendship, family. We had set off a chain reaction, and the fallout was just beginning. The next day at work, Ryan noticed something was wrong. "He called you, didn't he?" Ryan asked quietly, reading my expression like a book. I nodded. Ryan swore under his breath, raking a hand through his hair. "I'll talk to him." "No," I said quickly. "This is my mess too. If he hates me, he has a right to." "I should have." My voice broke. Ryan caught my wrist, his grip firm. "Stop. This isn't just you. We're in this together." His words should have comforted me. Instead, they scared me. Because together or not, the world outside wasn't going to make this easy. But the truth? Even as everything around us started to crack, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. Not one moment. Not one kiss. Not one laugh we shared when no one was looking. And that terrified me more than anything. The fallout was worse than I imagined. My cousin avoided me like I was contagious, and when I tried to catch him after work one evening, he brushed past me without so much as a glance. Ryan and I kept our distance in public, but the silence in my family group chats told me everything I needed to know. Word had traveled fast, twisted into something ugly. Suddenly, every family dinner invitation dried up. Every casual text disappeared. It was as if I had been quietly erased. And Ryan, Ryan tried to hold it together for both of us, but I could see the guilt in his eyes. He had lost his best friend because of me, or maybe because of us. The thought gnawed at me every night. The project became our only safe space, though even there the whispers grew louder. Colleagues stopped meeting our eyes. A manager cleared his throat pointedly when Ryan's hand brushed mine during a late-night brainstorming session. I told myself it didn't matter. As long as we nailed the project, nothing else would. But deep down, I knew I was lying. Because love doesn't exist in a vacuum. The breaking point came during the final rehearsal before our board presentation. Ryan had just finished running through his part. His voice steady, his charm unshakable. I was supposed to follow, but halfway through my slides, I saw the door open. My cousin walked in. He didn't belong there. He didn't even work in our department. But he stood at the back of the room, arms crossed, his eyes fixed on us. My mouth went dry. The words on the screen blurred. "Keep going?" Ryan murmured, low enough that only I could hear. His hand brushed my elbow, grounding me. I forced myself to finish, though my voice cracked more than once. When it was over, the room applauded politely, but my cousin's expression didn't change. He waited until the others filed out, then approached. "I just needed to see it with my own eyes," he said coldly. "The way you look at him. The way he looks at you." Ryan straightened, his jaw tight. "This isn't how you think. Don't." My cousin's voice cut like glass. "You were supposed to be my brother. My family. And he turned to me, his face twisting with something between hurt and disgust. "You couldn't find anyone else? You had to choose him." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Ryan stepped forward, his tone firm but controlled. "This wasn't about you. It never was. That only made things worse." My cousin's fists clenched. "You're dead to me," he spat before storming out. The silence that followed was suffocating. I wanted to chase after him, to fix it, but my legs wouldn't move. My chest felt like it had caved in. Ryan reached for me, but I pulled away. Don't, I whispered. His hand dropped. That night I couldn't sleep. Every memory of my cousin and me growing up together replayed like a cruel montage: summer barbecues, road trips, late-night video games. He had been my first real friend, my anchor in a world that often felt too heavy. And now he hated me because I had chosen Ryan. Or maybe because Ryan had chosen me. I stared at the ceiling until dawn, my heart split between guilt and longing. The day of the presentation arrived. The boardroom was a battlefield of sharp suits and sharper eyes. Ryan and I delivered our pitch with precision, our voices overlapping seamlessly, the chemistry undeniable. When the applause came, it was thunderous. We had done it. But as I looked at Ryan, pride in his eyes, something inside me broke, because success didn't erase the wreckage behind us. Afterward, as we walked out of the building, Ryan caught my arm. "Talk to me," he said. "There's nothing to say." "Bullshit. You've been shutting me out since your cousin walked in. Don't do this." I looked at him, really looked at him, the man who had stood by me, who had risked his career and friendships just to stand close. The man I wanted, more than I'd ever admitted. But I also saw the fracture lines spreading around us, the damage we couldn't undo. "I can't," I whispered. His face fell. "Can't what? Can't choose me?" Tears burned my eyes, but I forced the words out. "I can't keep hurting the people I love. My cousin, my family. They'll never forgive this. And maybe they shouldn't." Ryan's jaw tightened, his eyes shining with something raw. "So that's it? After everything? You're just going to walk away?" The silence stretched. Then slowly I nodded. His hand slipped from my arm. He stepped back, like the space between us had become an ocean. "Fine," he said hoarsely. "If that's what you want." But it wasn't. God, it wasn't. I turned before he could see me break. The weeks that followed were a blur of emptiness. The project wrapped, hailed as a massive success, but none of it mattered. I kept my head down, avoided Ryan's floor, ignored my cousin's silence. Every night, I replayed the same scene in my head: Ryan's voice, low and pleading, asking me to choose. And me, too afraid to say yes. Maybe I was a coward. Maybe I always had been. But what terrified me most wasn't losing Ryan. It was realizing that without him, everything felt gray. One night, months later, I found myself standing outside Ryan's apartment building. I don't remember deciding to go. It was like my body had moved on its own. The city buzzed around me, neon lights flickering, but all I saw was the door in front of me. I raised my hand, hesitated, then knocked. The door opened. Ryan stood there, hair mussed, eyes tired, but still him. Always him. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then, quietly, I said, "I was wrong." His expression flickered, pain and hope colliding. "About what?" "About pretending I could live without you." His breath caught. And then, finally, he pulled me inside. That was the beginning of something new. Something fragile, terrifying, but real. The world outside still judged. My cousin still hadn't forgiven me. But when Ryan's arms wrapped around me that night, I realized something I should have known all along. Love isn't about who approves. It's about who makes you feel like you're home. The air in Ryan's apartment felt different that night, thick with unspoken promises, fragile with hope. For months, I had convinced myself I was doing the right thing by walking away. Yet standing there, with Ryan's arms around me, I finally understood how wrong I'd been. He pulled back just enough to search my face. "If you're here just to disappear again, don't. I can't take it a second time." My throat tightened. "I'm not leaving this time. I swear." Something broke in him then, something heavy, something that had been weighing both of us down. His forehead pressed against mine, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The days that followed weren't magically easy. Love doesn't fix everything. The world didn't suddenly accept us. My cousin didn't suddenly forgive us. But being with Ryan gave me strength I hadn't known I had. We moved carefully at first, piecing our lives back together in small steps. Breakfasts in his kitchen, long walks after work, whispered confessions in the quiet of the night. I learned the details of Ryan's world outside my cousin's shadow, his dreams, His fears, the way he sometimes felt like he had to perform a version of himself just to be accepted. And he learned mine, the loneliness I had carried for years, the pressure of family expectations, the fear of never being enough. We became each other's shelter. But the shadow of my cousin lingered. Every family gathering I skipped, every phone call unanswered, reminded me of the rift between us. I couldn't ignore it forever. One Sunday afternoon, I found myself standing on his porch. My hands shook as I knocked, heart pounding like I was about to face a firing squad. He opened the door, his expression flat. "You've got nerve showing up here." "I know," I said softly, "but I had to." For a long time, he just stared. Then he stepped aside, letting me in. The silence was brutal. Finally, I forced myself to speak. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't plan any of this. But Ryan, he's not just your best friend. I faltered, then finished. "He's the person I love." My cousin's jaw tightened. "Do you know what it felt like? Watching the two people I trusted most sneaking around behind my back." "I do," I said quietly. "And I'll regret that forever. But we weren't trying to betray you. We were just scared." He didn't answer. His eyes flickered with something I couldn't read: anger, grief, maybe both. Finally, he sighed, running a hand over his face. "I don't know if I can forgive you." "Not yet." It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't rejection either. It was something in between, an opening. And for now, that was enough. Ryan didn't ask me what happened when I got back. He just pulled me into his arms, as if he already knew. That was the thing about him, always knew. "Whatever time it takes," he murmured against my hair. "We'll wait. Together." Seasons changed. The project we had poured ourselves into became the company's biggest success of the year. Ryan was offered a promotion, one that would put him in charge of a new division. He hesitated at first, worried about what it would mean for us, but I reminded him that love wasn't about holding each other back. So we celebrated the win together, toasting with cheap champagne in his apartment, laughing until our cheeks hurt. Somewhere between laughter and silence, I realized this was it. This was the life I wanted. Not the picture-perfect approval of family, not the illusion of safety, just him. Months later, at a family barbecue, my cousin showed up. I hadn't expected him to speak to me, but as I stood by the grill, he approached. "You look happier," he said gruffly. "I am," I admitted. His eyes softened, just a fraction. "Good. Doesn't mean I'm okay with it yet. But maybe one day." And for the first time in a long while, I felt hope bloom in my chest. That night, Ryan and I walked home hand in hand. The city lights shimmered around us, but all I saw was him, his profile lit by the glow of street lamps, his smile small but steady. "You know," he said, squeezing my hand, "if someone had told me last year that this is where we'd end up, I wouldn't have believed them." "Me neither." He stopped, turning to face me. "But I'm glad we did." I smiled, the kind that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. "So am I." Love didn't erase the past. It didn't erase mistakes or heal wounds overnight. But it gave us the courage to keep trying, to keep choosing each other even when the world told us not to. And in the end, that was enough. Ryan kissed me under the glow of the city, and for the first time in my life, I felt whole. Because sometimes the hardest choices lead to the best endings. And this was the best ending I could have ever imagined. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.